me to be here today in this beautiful place. I haven't been here in a very long time, and I'm very grateful for being able to come and speak with you guys here today. I feel very honored to come and speak here at the Spiritualist Church of Awareness. I know that we just got done having Thanksgiving this week, and through all of the holiday season into November, into December, it allows us to stop and think what we are grateful for in our lives. Usually we think about the same as everyone else. We are thankful for our family. We are thankful for friends. We are thankful for everything else in our lives. But that is just it. Something to think about. Are we thankful for life? Not just everything else in life, but actually thankful for life. It is good to sit and think about the positive and the negatives in our life journeys from time to time. Yes, even negatives, because we have so much to learn from those experiences too. I know most of us can look back on the negative experiences that occurred in our life and recognize years later that they happened for a true purpose too. And we learned from those experiences. And it allowed us to move forward on our journey with greater knowledge received through our life experiences and have a greater light that shines with our soul because of it. Even if it feels very difficult at the time, we can usually see later on the greater purpose on why it had occurred for us. As spiritualists, we can sometimes get caught up in our religion. Spiritualism is the science, the philosophy, and the religion of the continuity of life, which means we believe that life continues on after a change called death. Sometimes we can get caught up in the understanding of that continuity so much that we can forget about life and find ourselves actually living too much in death. It is important that we understand the continuity to allow man to move forward with an understanding of higher knowledge of being. But we also must remember to live in life and not just to live in death. That is part of being grateful for our life here on this earth plane. It is such a privilege to be here on earth, and I'd like to share with you how I found out through my own experiences that life here in the physical is so very special indeed. One thing a lot of people might not know about me was that I had a near-death experience, or what I like to call a death experience, that enabled me to transition to the other side for just a bit. Everything I'd seen about 20 years ago sent me on a journey of understanding of what I knew was actually there. The scientist in me, though I had to be able to explain more scientifically, this is why I was so drawn to the religion of spiritualism. Again, we know spiritualism is the science, philosophy, and religion of the continuity of life. For those of you who don't know, spiritualism was set by its forefathers to help people understand the continuity. Readings and messages from a medium is one way for people to understand that life does continue on after we go through our change called death. We are made of energy, and energy can never be destroyed. It can transmute and change, but it can never be disposed of. And the talk of quantum physics, the talk of transmutation of energy, but never being disposed of, talks about it going through a molecular structure change, like water's molecular structure change when it turns to ice or steam, and then it changes back to water. We change the same as water does. In the principles of spiritualism, principle number 4, we affirm that the existence and personal identity of the individual continues after the change called death. A change called death for our molecular structure change that we go through as a part of the particles of the universal flow of what we call energy. This is what was shown to me when I was in spirit. Because I was so scientific, I see myself as molecules. Because if we're going to see what it is that we know of our being, or what we bring with us as knowledge. I still needed to breathe. I felt the need to breathe when I first transitioned. I remember feeling it so hard. I need to breathe, I need to breathe. But I did not have to breathe. Also, there was no color for me in spirit. Because color is a vibratory transference of energy here in the physical. There is no physical in spirit. So there was no color. With that said, I could create color in spirit if I wanted to see it. The download of everything in my life was instantaneous. It was a download of actions I made towards others and how my actions made them feel, both positive and negative. And our thoughts are not safe either. Those are also reviewed back. This is why I now think every night when I go to bed of what I might have said through my day that could have affected people in a negative way. then I think of another way I might have been able to handle a situation differently. I want to have a very short review the next time I transition. So I feel if I do this every night, it will help me with that. Some beliefs throughout the world think that after a person goes through their change called death, that you shouldn't talk to them. As spiritualists, we don't believe in discriminating against anyone who has gone through their change, so we continue to talk to them. An example, my grandmother's in spirit. I don't just say, sorry grandma, I can't speak to you anymore now that you've gone through your molecular structure change called death. I continue to talk to her, just as I would if she was here in the physical. To us as spiritualists, there's no difference. From physical to spirit, we still continue to talk with her. All of us have, as human beings, have the ability to see, feel, hear, touch, and talk with spirit. This is how we are made. Our brains are our filters to decide if we have these experiences with spirit or not. For an example, if you look through a glass window in your house, and to see the house across the street, you're telling your brain, I want to see the view of that house. And your brain filters anything else in the way of viewing that house. But if you pull back and you look at the glass, you'll see the smudges and markings. But when you told your brain you want to see the house, it showed you a perfect image of that house. Meanwhile, the smudges and markings were there the entire time. Our brain just filtered it. It's exactly the same when you're seeing spirit. Spirit is always there. But most people's brains just filter it. Some people, I believe, are just born more filtered or unfiltered than others are, which is why some people see spirit and some people don't. All of us as human beings are capable of seeing spirit. There's also certain events or teachings in a person's life that may have filtered or unfiltered them involuntarily. This experience I had unfiltered me with a vengeance at the time. When I had my death experience and was back in my physical body, I thought I was going crazy. I could see all kinds of crazy things that I couldn't explain. Things I remembered seeing as a child that I tried to shut off as I got older, except now it was even more clear. Only this time it was very difficult to shut off. This opened my need of understanding and learning. The need to know can cause a lot of stress in our lives when you feel you are not getting answers. So we must filter and unfilter what we need to know. And our brains help us do this either consciously or unconsciously. So this way the need to know does not take control of us. To understand what I mean when I say our brains can filter or unfilter, quantum physics tells us that reality is not fixed. One theory is subatomic particles, which only come into existence when they are observed. Our mind has enormous potential, but we only use a small portion of it for conscious thought, and we miss a lot of what's actually going on around us. Our brain receives 400 billion bits a second of information, but we're only aware of 2,000 bits a second. Reality is happening in our brain all the time we're receiving it, but it's not being integrated. As information is received, our brains decide if this information is important or not important. If it is something it thinks you want or need, you recognize it. If it doesn't think it is something you want or need, it filters the information out of the equation completely. Unintentional blindness, also known as perceptual blindness, is a psychological lack of attention and is not associated with any vision deficits or defects. It may be further defined as the event in which an individual fails to recognize an unexpected stimulus that is actually just in plain sight. Research on unintentional blindness suggests that the phenomena can occur in any individual independent of cognitive deficits. When it simply becomes impossible for one to attend all the stimuli in a given situation, a temporary blindness will occur at that time, and the effect can take place as a result. That is, individuals fail to see objects or stimuli that are unexpected and quite often salient. Unintentional blindness also has an effect on a person's perception. There have been numerous experiments also as an effect on a person's perception. There have been different types that show and demonstrate the phenomena. One example can be heard if you've ever seen the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? In there they explain, we only see what is believed to be possible. In their example, Native American Indians on the Caribbean islands couldn't see Columbus's ships sitting on the horizon because the ships were beyond their knowledge to comprehend without knowing that they actually existed. It wasn't until the ships came upon the shore and people were getting off of them did the brain recognize they were actually even there. As an example of this, consider your daily commute. You don't really need to think consciously about how to get to work, because if it is a trip you've taken so many times, that the memory is how to navigate it is actually ingrained inside our brains. The neurons that control this memory have communicated so often that they have formed a tight bond like a group of old friends. Now contrast your daily commute with the experience of driving to a location that you've never visited. To make this trip, your brain has to work much harder. You need to get directions, write them down, or print them, and then pay extra attention to the road signs along the way, or we might just get lost. In this case, the neurons involved in navigating to this new destination have not shared synapses frequently before, so they communicate incompletely or inefficiently. This requires forming new connections within the brain, which results in greater conscious effort and attention on our part. This research has important implications for learning, especially regarding how we acquire new knowledge, store it in memory, and retrieve it when it's needed. When learning new things, memory and recall are strengthened by frequency and recency. The more we practice and rehearse something new, the more we recently have practiced, the easier it is for our brain to transmit these experiences efficiently and store them for ready access later. This process is called fluency. In mediumship, it tells our brains we want to see, feel, hear, touch, and smell spirit. It says, please brain, don't filter that. I want to recognize it. That is why there are many classes offered out there in the world. These classes can help people recognize if they want to recognize, and see there's a whole new world out there for them to live in if they so choose to do so in their lives. The message I try to help share across to the world that I have learned through my own personal experiences is I want to encourage everyone to stay open to the possibility that there is much more out there than what we are taught in the mundane view of things. It is important that we should be able to see and allow ourselves to see the opportunity of having these experiences with our own mind if we want to. Definition of faith, a belief that is not based on proof. There is having faith in what you are experiencing, knowing that all faiths can be proven through scientific fact, but faith just hasn't been proven yet. Allow yourself to find your own proof. There is a scientist that just goes off of facts that are already there. And then there's what I like to call the spiritual scientists. Knowing and having faith in your own personal experiences and trying to find the proof based off the knowledge that you have been offered and take forward to share so there can be understanding to cross the line others haven't touched yet and allow yourself a new line of learning to receive. An example, Nicholas Copernicus, born 1473, and he transitioned in 1543, and Galileo Galilei, born 1564, and transitioned in 1642. They both challenged the idea that Earth was not the center of the universe, as religions at the time led people to believe. Galileo found proof to what he believed on January 7, 1610, by finding 4 of the many moons Jupiter has. He noticed that the 4 moons he saw revolved around Jupiter, and which proved the theory that Earth was not the center of the universe. In a letter that was written to Johannes Kepler of August 1610, Galileo complained that some of the philosophers who opposed his discoveries had even refused to look through a telescope. So he wrote a letter to them, and in his letter he wrote, "My dear Kepler, I wish that we might laugh at the remarkable stupidity of the common herd. What do you have to say about the principal philosophers of this academy who are filled with the stubbornness of a wasp? And they do not want to look at either the planets, the moon, or even through the telescope, even though I freely and deliberately offered them the opportunity 1,000 times. Truly, just as the wasp stops its ears, so do these philosophers shut their eyes to the light of truth." So finally, in 1632, he was able to publish the proof that he found. Immediately, the Catholic Pope summoned him, and he was threatened by torture to retract what he said. He did eventually obey, and he retracted what he said, but he turned and muttered to the Pope, "Il possible mieux vivre." And yet, it does move. He stayed under house arrest, unable to leave his home and talk with anyone about this, until his death 12 years later in 1642. That is how they silenced him. And yet today, the world knows that Earth is not the center of the universe. This is just one example of how dogmatic religion has tried to control what we gain as knowledge that might not fit exactly how it is written by people of any statute in a book. We must never close off and say, I know, for I believe we will be learning the entire time we are here in the physical. I firmly believe one of our purposes is to gain knowledge, which is what I found in my death experience when I was able to transition. As quoted from Galileo Galilei, all truths are easy to understand once they are discovered, but the point is to discover them. Please allow yourself to seek and discover your own truths, and not let what is written be the only thing that stops you from crossing the line of gaining knowledge. I always say not to take anything literal from a book or a person just telling you. Just say thank you for the knowledge and find out if it is true through your own personal experiences. So what would be enough for us to at least feel comfortable on where we are in our journeys right now? How do we continue on and we move forward? I found just like a simple little moth that follows the path of light, no matter what, keep your head towards that light. You see, gaining knowledge here on Earth, or on the Earth plane of existence, opens a door of understanding, instead of a door of fear for people like us that are wanting to go beyond where someone might draw a line. So this is what I have learned through my death experience and my life experiences. I understand, and I plan on taking in every breath of the knowledge I continue to receive with this part of journey through my life. For I understand now that we will all be learning for the rest of our lives, and deciphering the puzzle pieces Spirit shows us here and there every single day. So how can we share this? And how can I share this with you that I accept from Spirit and say thank you? And that's all we say is we're grateful through our own experiences. Because I chose to believe that if I persist in my efforts to help people any which way I can, they can share and feel the warm vibration of having a smile on their face, even if it is just for a minute through their day. I accept that I am not mostly here for myself in this lifetime, and prepare myself for a brighter future after I get through challenges that may be necessary for me to continue my journey through my lifetime here and there. I forgive those who have brought me mental and physical pain in my life, and relax on days when this seems just a bit overwhelming. I care how my actions may make other people feel and listen to them when they need someone to talk to. I act on issues that arise that I can do something about, and I've learned to let go of the ones that I cannot do anything about. I'm learning to focus on matters one at a time to get goals I want to accomplish completed instead of taking on too much at one time, which we all do every day in our lives. I pray every single day and show thanks for everything in my life, and allow myself to be here in a physical body here on earth. I trust in faith and allow room for change in my life in order to stay on a path which I have chosen in this lifetime. I know sometimes I have to be patient and wait for times to be easier for me in my life. I know I've been taking a big risk for me to do things that feels right sometimes in my heart. It feels like you can lose everything. For me, house, car, career, and all security, that's what we feel in our lives. And it took me years at one point as a single mom to build it. When I got sick, it took me less than 6 months to lose it all. So who said a spiritual journey can come easy, right? With this, I know that my guides were sent to be my angels of mercy, for they are always with me. So what do I take to help me understand by this knowledge of understanding? And what do I try to share to people that I've learned through my own death experience that has brought me this information to try and help move forward in life? I will always have, and we will always have, our family and friends in one way or another. We will always have guides. We will always have compassion. We will always have morals that we can choose to stand by. And we will always have love in our hearts. And we will always have the higher divine vibration that has created everything. And that can never be taken from us, no matter how hard people may try. So we continue to try and make people smile, one person in the world at a time. As quoted by Lewis Carroll, one of the deep secrets of life is that all that is really worth doing is what we do for others. For we all live in this world together, And together with all diversities, we must live to make it an amazing and beautiful world. Thank you very much.